John's mic is really live. But so are we. It's Dylan, Doug, John, and Jordan for another week of Chip Chat. I don't know. We're talking about chips, but importantly, Dylan has the hottest goss before we begin. We literally just ended the Nvidia callback, and we were chatting, and like, oh, whatever. Honestly, so clean of a print, there really isn't anything to nitpick, so we're not going to, honestly, fuck it, we're not going to even talk about it that much. But
Dude,
Dylan...
we won't even talk about the earnings, but we will
Yeah.
say is, oh my God, Colette was just smiling the entire time, and she was so chill.
She was happy.
And
She was
trolling
happy.
us. She was trolling us. She's like, "Oh, you want to have that number, huh? You're trying to solve for X." Well, I know how
Oh,
to
you
solve
want to
for
goal
X.
seek? It's like, I know how that. I was once young. And we were like, okay, she's in a good mood. She was in a good mood. But more important than a good mood, she was wearing a good outfit. And you know what that means? It's time for Dylan's hottest goss story at Computex. I don't know. Dylan, you have to tell the story because this is so funny to me. This is my favorite story of all time, actually.
Yeah. So I think I just told them internally, so I haven't even told like the story properly. But back a year ago, right? A year and a couple of months ago, GTC happens. Colette gets mad at me, and we walked into the stairwell, and she got mad at me. Deservedly, I deserved to get chewed out because I did some wrong things. Anyways, she had sat down in the stairwell, and then I'd mentioned this to like Doug, and Doug's like, "What, dude? You know she's wearing like the most expensive thing ever." I'm like, "Huh?" Oh, I'm oblivious. Fast forward a year, you know, I'm getting into fashion. I don't know if y'all have seen the fits. You know, there's a bunch of fits coming out. There's a bunch of new clothing. Michelle, who's at Semi-Analysis, is also went shopping with Wei, and you know, in Taiwan, and got me another fit. You know, and then I went shopping with Michelle, and we got some new shoes and stuff. Like, dude, I'm swagged out. And I went to Korea with my friend Jason, got swagged out. Anyways, GTC. At Computex in Taiwan, they have the financial analyst Q&A session, right? And before, they have like a lunch hors d'oeuvres type situation with Peking duck or Taiwan duck, depending on how Taiwanese nationalist you are. There's a spot in Taiwan that actually calls it Taiwan duck, which is hilarious. Anyways, the food was really good. I'm chatting with a bunch of clients with a bunch of random buy-siders, and then I see Colette. She's being accosted, right? There's like 5 Asian buy-siders. I walk up and they're talking about rack builds clearly. Like, how many racks are being collected? How many racks are being built? Like, this is all they care about. And it's like, I walk up and I'm like, hey, happy Mother's Day, which is an inside joke with her. But anyways, I walk up, I say that, she laughs. And then I'm like, you know, everyone's asking you about things you can't answer, right? You can't talk about, you know, earnings, because earnings is next week. Like, all they want to know is supply numbers. Let's talk about something you can talk about. And so I was like, and then I told her how I'm trying to get into fashion. You know, I think it's important to be able to, you know, find, you know, to look good, to present myself well for clients, for humanity, for potential, you know, future wifey. You know, I gotta look good. So I tell her about like how I'm getting into fashion. I don't tell her the rationale why. And then I'm like, and Colette, I've noticed you dress really well. And she's like, oh, well, thank you so much. And I'm like, you know, it's kind of a funny story, right? Another hedge fund person told me about how there's a strategy where you look at shit companies and then you see if they bought some new clothing. You'd like try and memorize their wardrobe. You see if they bought new clothing before earnings. Oh, was it Doug? Doug told me this, sorry. You see if they bought new clothing, and if they bought new clothing and they're a shit co, clearly they're beating earnings. And so I tell her this story and she laughs and she's like, how good is this strategy? And I'm like, I don't know, I heard it was pretty good. And she's like, well, it wouldn't work on me. Yeah, because you're always well dressed. And she's like, yeah, thank you. And I'm like, so tell me about it. Tell me what you're wearing. And she's like, well, so, you know, I get a new crate of clothes every week. You know, it's like she gets them like hand selected for her, or like whatever, right? Like, I mean, she's hot shit, right? CFO of a $3 trillion company, right? I'm sure every designer wants her to just wear whatever there is. But she's like, we chat. We talk about clothing for like 10 minutes. How she gives away some of her clothes to her reports and other people who are like do good for her because they're just so nice, and like all these other things, and how like she has like all these new clothes and how they're like, and she talks about that for a while with me. And we go back and forth, and all these poor Asian buy-siders are like, but how many racks are going to be built? My supply chain checks have bad rack builds. And it's like, brother, you talk about that with the Foxconn guy, which is what we did at Computex, right? And the Quanta guy. We don't talk about this with Colette, right? Like, you know, you've got the fucking icon here. So we talk about that, and then anyways, you know, I say my goodbye, and we go in, and then we go inside for the Q&A. There's a bunch of buy-siders there. I sit next to, you know, this one buy-sider from Hong Kong's my buddy, and then this US buy-side client. I sit next to them, somewhat close to the back middle. And I'm sitting there, and it's just the worst, right? Like, they're all asking shitty questions that are obvious answers, right? Like, if you listen to Jensen enough, if you listen to Nvidia enough, if you follow the company enough, you know what the answer is going to be. You don't ask where you know what the answer is going to be, right? And so they're just asking questions where, like, I could probably do the Jensen rant, right? It wouldn't be as eloquent and like smooth as him, you know, but I could do the rant, right? And collect a single word, because again, earnings is the next week, right? This was last week. Earnings was this week. She could not say anything, even if she wanted to, right? It's like, you know, like this is just like SEC shit, right? And so like they're talking, they're giving answers that are like pretty predictable. Answers are really shitty, or questions are really shitty. Answers are good. It's the Nvidia talking points in line, and some color from Jensen. There were some good tidbits. Halfway through, I turned to my friend and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna ask the stupidest question possible. And then he's like, what do you mean? He's like, you'll see. I'm gonna ask about their clothes. And the guy is like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I am. And so I wait for my turn, or it's not a turn-based thing. It's you kind of raise my hand a couple times. It's very obvious that people with the microphones want to give me the mic. They don't know that what I'm gonna ask, but it's just like, I don't want to give it a lid. Right, but you know, like the mic, like last question gives it to someone in the front or someone in the, you know, whatever. They ask a shitty question, and I think by this point Jensen had noticed, and he's like, actually, this won't be a question. There'll be one more. There'll be two questions. You know, he loves to get behind schedule of what actually is his schedule that like is made for him. He likes to be a little bit later or just keep extending the time. I don't know if the team like builds this in or what, but anyways, build in that Jensen's just going to take longer than they want him to, or they tell him it's over like 10 minutes early. I don't know how it works, but how the management of Jensen's schedule is. But anyways, I have my hand straight up. He's like, no, that guy, right? Like they try and walk past me to someone else, and he's like, no, that guy. And so the mic gets to me, and he's like, you better ask a really good question. I want to hear a really good question out of you. Or there's better be a really good question. He says it like 3 times, right? So he's expecting it to be a good question, and I go, yo, Jensen, your leather jacket, it's iconic, it's amazing, everyone knows it. But as far as fashion, everyone knows that Colette has it. And he just like buries his hands in his head, and he's like, he's roasting me. And then I'm like, and so my question is really, you two are so different, right? And earlier in the Q&A, he talked about how he hates spreadsheets, which is the best thing to tell a bunch of buy-siders, like, fuck you, your spreadsheets suck. I'm the man. Please, spreadsheets are awesome. Buy our spreadsheets; they are our lifeblood. But anyways, you know, he's like shit talking spreadsheets. So I'm like, you know, but Colette's got better fashion than you. He buries his hand in his hand, and it's like a jokey. And then I'm like, so what I wanted to ask is like, how do you two work with each other, right? Like, you hate spreadsheets, but you know, Colette is the god of the spreadsheets for Nvidia, and you guys are so different. Your personalities are different. How do you work together? Right, I thought it was actually a really good question because
it's a good
the answer
question.
was definitely
it's a really good question.
The answer was the most interesting answer in the entire Q&A, in my opinion, because Jensen then started ranting about like how like spreadsheets lie and like how spreadsheets do this and that, but then you need them, and like, you know, things, and like how Oh, and at the end of the question, I was like, and Colette answer first, right? Because really, I wanted to, just poke fun at him just for the hell of it. It's fun. Colette unfortunately did not answer first. She said she is at a loss of words on how to answer the question. But Jensen ranted, and it was a good rant about how they work together and like their working styles and all that. Like, I don't think I'd ever heard sort of that interaction before. So that's sort of the tea there.
Fun.
That's a good one.
Wow, honestly, that's the best. That's like, wait, I actually was going to ask, how do they work together? Because they are different.
Well, right, like this is the right. It's like Jensen is the man to Yo, right? Like, is Colette really gonna? I do wonder, like, obviously they didn't answer this. Like, how are they meetings where Jensen's like more orders and I believe it in my bones. We should have more. And Colette's
well, okay. Don't forget. Do you remember?
like,
Do you remember the TSMC orders for like 2020 when Jensen was like 8 billion pre-purchases and AMD was like 2 billion pre-purchases? Like Jensen literally just says the biggest number. He's always the most aggressive.
But there
just
is
for context.
some rhyme or reason on how they come up with these numbers, right?
Yes. Yeah. There is.
Oh,
and that's probably Colette's job.
Giving is crypto, right? It's crypto shit. But anyways, so like obviously here is like, well, they're modeling out stuff and they're looking at all the available data, both internal and external, on how to like figure out what customers want, and customers tell them stuff, and they probably believe a lot of the numbers at face value, but then they discount a lot of them and all these other things. Like, I'm sure there's a complicated process here. That there's been some color given publicly on that, but it's very clear. Jensen's like, unlimited demand. I need more orders, and like there's got to be a rhyme process there. He didn't talk too much about that level of stuff, but he did talk about how like spreadsheets lie and like, but you need them, and like how you have to understand what people are doing and map everything out. But at the end of the day, what really separates the best leaders in companies is that like you have to be able to instead of like looking at every number, you look at you kind of keep every. He joked he has a spreadsheet in his head and he has every number in his head, and then that's how, and every data point and every vibe, and that's how he's able to like. He didn't say the word vibes, but he's like, that's how he's able to like navigate through the difficult situations and make the best decisions, which is true, right? Like the vibes are what matters at the end of the day. Like YOLO, it's this number, or YOLO, like let's do this because the vibes are there, and then the demand, because the numbers can be invented to justify whatever the fuck you want, right? Was basically the vibes of what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the follow-up I would have asked is like, how do you like what is your signal and noise for vibes, and like how has that evolved over the past 30 years? So, anyways, do that.
Well, you want to know? Okay, I actually want to say the GOAT of finance of all time. You think the greatest dude, GOAT of finance, Warren Buffett stepping down. He's never done a DCF. He's never done a spreadsheet. He does the meetings on handshakes, and he's like, usually I do the deal where it's so good the math is obvious. And also the guy's a savant, whatever. He knows how to do all the math in his head. But he's like, yeah, I got a spreadsheet in my brain, all vibes as well. So you heard it here first. If Buffett, you want to be...
Buffett
doesn't spreadsheet, no way.
Buffett, I thought like...
I can't hear you, Dylan.
You hit mute. I think you touched the microphone, Dylan.
Hello?
Oh no.
Okay, so
yeah, okay.
It wouldn't be Transistor Radio without audio issues, right? Like we were running really good. My mic quality was good. Had good conversation. It wasn't off topic. So we hit the characteristic Transistor
Radio. Bring it closer to you, Dylan.
I thought Buffett was. I thought like his whole thing was he did figure out what was undervalued, even though he didn't use spreadsheets. Like, and I thought he did the math on like valuations.
But it's usually in his brain, if it makes sense. And he's also like the price valuation gap is usually so big. It's I would even argue ridiculously obvious, right? Where it's like, I think this isn't him, but like, valuation is his margin of safety, right? He knows, it's very hard mathematically to screw this up. You can't pay like, 30 times earnings and you're like, oh, mathematically this might screw up. He's like, no, this is very cheap. It's hard to screw this up. Like when he bought Apple, like a ton of it, it was 10 times earnings. Pretty hard to screw that up if it grows. So, and yeah, dude, he's also savant with math. There's like also another one about him like driving around Omaha, and he's like, oh, did you know that building sold for X price in X year? And you're like, oh, he's actually just a mathematical savant. Like he literally knows like all the price of all the buildings that have ever sold in Omaha in commercial real estate.
Doug,
the man is like,
what the dude? Are you on like some third party like podcast? Or are you on Transistor Radio? Say the word autistic.
okay, sorry. He is look, man. Man was cracked, okay? Man was a cracked autistic dude. He literally, he was so autistic that his wife made a living arrangement with his girlfriend. That's how autistic he was. And everyone was just kind of like, yeah, you didn't. Okay, well,
what?
Okay, I'm going to have to do some Googling here. Yeah, dude, don't you know that?
His wife moved out in the
But he
80s or something, and then introduced his now third wife, but live-in girlfriend to him.
There you go. That's John had it. Yeah, essentially, he's so autistic that the wife had to pick the next wife. Because he couldn't, there wasn't even a chance of him finding him for himself, man. He's just been autistically guided through bumper paths his entire life, man. If you think about it, it's like us trying to find you a wife. We're just introducing you to people trying to get you all the way to the finish line, man.
Come on. It's not like that. Come on.
21st century Buffett, Dylan. Just take the compliment, all right?
We're calling you the 21st century autistic Buffett, okay? Take it.
Come on, I'll have you know. This Thursday is with someone.
I've heard good stuff. I've heard good stuff. But new topic. I've heard good news.
Get this buff though.
America banned EDA. They pulled all the serial keys into China. How do we feel about this?
Honestly, I thought it was really funny because the timing of the news during the middle of the day.
This isn't China talk.
It's Transistor Radio, dude.
Sorry.
He's going up on China talk though.
Transistor is synonym for unhinged as hell. Dude, honestly, the thing that's crazy is in the middle of the day there was all this news saying EDA's banned.
Ooh, we're a bipolar CMOS. We're bipolar. Ooh.
Oh my god, what the? Okay, so everyone said it got banned, and then in the news articles for all this stuff being banned, it's like this is probably fake news. And then like Reuters reported or the FT reported, yeah, EDA's all banned. So EDA's all banned. Synopsys didn't rip it from their guide because they reported today, but I think they figured it out also today. So that's a vibe. Who the hell knows? But yeah, honestly, too little, too late. Should have been done already. I don't know how Dylan feels about this, but that's what I feel. We should have done this 3 years ago, 5 years ago, even. Do you think the cloud? Do you think the Ascend 910 was designed on non-ED Synopsys and Cadence? Dylan, Jordan, John, it's just me now.
Dude, definitely uses Western EDA. Here's the thing, right? You ban China from EDA. They just use EDA with the cracked license, right? Like, come on.
Right?
You're telling me that our fucking DRM is that good? That China can't fucking crack the DRM?
Nope.
They were the original DRM crackers,
right? Like it doesn't need to be like live, and you can just like steal the updates or whatever. I mean, it's just software.
I mean, I'm sure some slowdown. I'm sure there's some slowdown, but there's a reason that EDA is only like 8 or 10% of just China, when every other category of semiconductors is way higher, right? That's because there's a fuckload of piracy already.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, you want to do the next U.S. court blocks Trump Liberation Day tariffs. Stocks are up only right now.
Say that again?
Can we talk about Taco?
Ooh, that one's too... We can talk about Taco.
All right, so some reporters said that asked Trump what he thought about Trump only chickens out. the taco trade, and he got really triggered, which I think is bearish for the planet. That he's just gonna, I don't know, he's gonna like full send something that just to prove a point. I don't know, he's gonna like shit on like Botswana or something, you know, start a war with South Africa. I don't know. Didn't make me feel great. You just gotta let the dead dogs lie. What's the other politics thing? Oh, I don't know if I have the energy to fight with you about Saudi and UAE, Dylan. We'll save that for another day. Or we can.
I'm sorry. Do you think you're wrong yet?
I think my take is that it's at worst like a 70-30 thing. And what's going to matter a lot more over the next 10 years is scaring off every international student and like blowing up the NSF and NIH for like the future of American technological greatness. So like, I'm not super happy with it. I wish they wouldn't have done it. You had all these caveats that they get the security right. I don't think they're going to get the security right. So like once you bake that in, the trade-offs don't seem to make sense from my perspective. But maybe like a more straightforward question, Dylan, like why is demand not, like why is supply not capped? Like how is this not like leading racks that would have flown other places, like flowed other places on the planet to Saudi and the UAE instead?
I mean, it's very simple, right? GPUs, CoWoS capacity is not the limitation, right? HBM capacity is not the limitation. It's data centers and power, right? That's why 2 years ago, 3 years ago, no, 2 years ago, we predicted that was the case. We heard it so much that we became the only company in the world that tracks every data center build out on a quarter by quarter basis into the future, looking at all the permits, regulatory filings, satellite photos, et cetera, right? Like there's a reason we invested all of the profit from, or a ton of the profit from accelerator model into building a much more differentiated data set because, and it shows to us, right? The accelerator model is, it's great. It's tons of revenue, but like we see the supply chain for CoWoS, for HBM, for front end wafers. And then when we compare that to the supply chain of data centers, there's clearly a deficit, right? There's data centers today that aren't powered on. There's data centers that aren't powered on. There's significant challenges with like powering on new data centers. There's delays with building them out, all for power reasons, right? And so we saw it this year, right? A few weeks ago, Nvidia cut CoWoS orders to TSMC, and we put it out in the accelerator model, and it was like, wait, what? They're cutting orders for this year on CoWoS, right? TSMC has more than enough capacity to build. It's actually that there's just not enough demand, right? And there's a ton of demand, right? Nvidia's revenue is still fucking skyrocketing, right?
Oh, rack. Like essentially, this is another example where the bottlenecks shift from one place to another, right? It was CoWoS, then it's racks, and now it's going to probably be power.
Yeah.
And so the problem is if you're trying to build this thing and you're pressing the gas on all three at the same time, all of them are kind of all trying to stabilize to break, like in order to increase, right? And so now what I think the whole push is like, dude, we are really screwed on power. Like power is so ridiculously screwed, dude. What's the timeline of getting power online? It's 5 years. What's the timeline for getting power, the infrastructure to get power online? It's probably another 5 years. We are probably 5 to 10 years from being able to meaningfully change how quick we can add stuff to the grid. And so that's like kind of the thought process. Now, the one issue that I do think you are probably pretty right on is like, dude, the enforcement mechanism is going to be pretty hard, and I don't know what the answer to that is.
One more point on the power perspective. I mean, I think it's worth kind of disaggregating like the things that would have gotten done if there was more kind of buildup behind it from a sort of like political agency regulatory perspective that, putting stuff in Saudi and the UAE acts as kind of like an escape valve for, versus, you know, the physical limitations of like, we just can't build enough transformers, you know, we can't get lines made XYZ. And I do think that, absent this deal and other deals, it seems to me likely that there would be more chips in America 5 years from now than there would be without that, is I guess the
I mean, let's be clear, the number cap that they've given the Middle East is less than 5% of TSMC's CoWoS capacity. The US is very limited on capacity, generally on data centers. And people are trying to build as fast as possible, but there's limitations, right? And so from my view and our view as a company, right, there would literally be less GPUs produced next year and the year after and the year after that. If this deal didn't happen, and with this deal, there's more GPUs. Furthermore, Saudi Arabia is actually going to, I've heard some pretty concrete shit about, they're actually going to ship some of their power gen capacity that they were going to install domestically to the US as part of this deal, right? And so we're actually going to get more power in terms of reactors that would have shipped to Saudi Arabia that they had already purchased from firms like GE. Some of those are being rediverted to the US. And they're paying for building data centers, because this deal is not just like, oh, you get to buy GPUs, end of story. It's like, no. You get to buy GPUs, but they mostly have to go to American companies anyways on the end use side. And you have to invest in the US, right? So G42 and Saudi both, G42 being UAE, and Saudi both are investing heavily in the US. Would they have done so regardless? Probably. To this extent, I don't think so. And at least some power gen capacity from Saudi is coming to the US. And so that's like, well, that's objectively more GPUs that are being made and being given to US companies, first of all. And second of all, potentially, I could even make the argument that there's more GPUs being given to, shipped and deployed in America, period, because of this. Because that power gen capacity would not have come in.
Perhaps it is sketchy from my perspective when the upsides of this deal is not public, and the sort of like the one thing we like, aside from letting them buy the chips, the one thing we get out of them is a $20 billion like commitment, which is just like a bullet point and a press release to buy something. And just given all we've seen out of this administration, I am worried that we did not drive the hardest bargain that we could, for something that the whole world really wants, which is like a remarkable asset that we have. But anyways, we didn't get to the G42.
Wait, pause. Okay. I think that's a fair statement that potentially they didn't drive as hard of a bargain as possible. I think I've heard that statement from many people, because what we get in return is nebulous, right? I've heard more details than most people have. Obviously, some of those things are private. Like, you know, like I don't want to share them like publicly. There's like NDAs and stuff, but like I think that the US is getting more. But the main thing here is like, is it a bad thing if a significant amount of compute is being paid for by the Saudis and the UAE upfront and then being rented to, after it's been paid for, to US labs, right? Is that a bad thing? No, that's a good thing, because Microsoft doesn't forever. That's why they backed out of OpenAI's training plans quite a bit, right? And Oracle stepped in, but like, look at Oracle's balance sheet. Like it's good. It's not crazy, right? And that's why like SoftBank and others and having to step in, but it's like there's limits to that money too. And it's like the rate of growth necessitates capital being raised to continue for, you know, these labs, OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, et cetera. But also, if these labs can shift the burden of CapEx to a multi-year rental deal versus a upfront CapEx, that dramatically helps them a lot. Now, who's going to pay for that CapEx upfront? The Saudis are willing to. The UAE is willing to. And they're willing to pay for that burden upfront and rent it to them. In which case, they're taking tremendous risk on the credit side, right, of the customer being there. They've made guarantees to the US that it won't be rented to China. And now I agree, that's why half of our post is about security, right? And like, hey, make sure this shit doesn't go to China. But, and as long as like that doesn't happen, this is a W. Now, if that happens, I will be the first one to scream my head off about it, right?
Yeah. And so beyond that, I think there is like a broader question of like, to what extent do we want the UAE and Saudi to have leverage over the future of this technology? And it's unclear to me, like, just to what extent they will by having these like deals with, with the leading labs and with the, hyperscalers and whatnot. But like, this is something that makes me uncomfortable, and seeing all those like press releases from Stargate being like, we're doing democratic AI with the UAE. I'm like, come on, guys, this is fucking ridiculous. And it's seeing all the piss that this administration took out of countries like Canada, and then us just like bending
Canada
over
is
backwards to make sure that our companies get to sell more stuff and keep growing thanks to and doing these big favors to the UAE and Saudi is like, I don't know. I can't.
I don't think this is just like a to the UAE and Saudi, right? This is, we are getting something out of it, something really tangible. This capital is being invested in US AI acceleration, right? If, like I said, right, like these GPUs go to the companies like OpenAI and such under rental terms where they're having hard times getting people to rent to them anyways. Like Microsoft doesn't want to rent a fuckload of GPUs ahead of time and just build the cluster and YOLO and hope OpenAI has the capital, right? Oracle won't be able to do that forever. And you go down the list, it's like, this absolutely unlocks more compute for companies like OpenAI, and therefore AI progress faster, and therefore the US is further ahead in AI, especially as China starts to wake up and invest more and more in AI. We need to have a bigger compute advantage. We have a compute advantage, but like that will start to be wiped away.
Okay, but like what are UAE and Saudi getting out of this aside from just like financial upside? I mean, there's more here, right?
They're participating in largest shift in human lifestyle since the Industrial Revolution, and probably bigger than it, right? They get to participate in that. That's a huge benefit for them. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to talk
Jensen
about?
pilled, bro. Jensen pilled. I was ready for the Jensen rant. You were seconds away. Now my real question is, what if what happens is all the intellectual work is really, really, really good, but we can't make a robot that can do fine motor skills, You guys ever see Snowpiercer? You know what I'm talking about. We just can't replace some of these parts, dude. And then all of a sudden you find that what are we just but human but meat bots, And then so instead what happens is we're all laid off. All the podcasts are fired, and because there's a million of us, and we all have to. The only thing that we're good for is making fine motor movement skills, like working in the factories.
well,
I have
my
a question
favorite,
for you.
the favorite line I heard was that, the UAE and Saudi, they've already been like so rich and so lazy for so long that they're actually the two countries that are most prepared for the AI revolution. So maybe we'll end up learning a thing or two from them.
We'll see. I was gonna say, man, depends on who you're talking to in the UAE and Saudi. Depends on who you're talking to.
Well, yeah, all the Bangladeshis are gonna go. We won't need them anymore. Well, I guess
we'll have robots.
Yeah.
For the robots, or
Except for
the robots will
fine
have
control movements.
Thank you. This guy gets it. Ooh, we're gonna have, it's like certain movements we could just AI never figures it out, and we're all just in the factories working our hard jobs.
We're gone over. Is there anything else you want to talk about? How are you guys doing? You guys doing okay?
I'm okay. I'm through my medical woes, so I'm very good mood for that.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just read this article about some guy did a Substack about how they got their 3-year-old to read The Hobbit, and now I'm feeling the pressure. Got to teach them phonics.
Bro, you should just set them up with a Kindle that can work with ChatGPT, and that's it. Just throw it at them and be like, "Good luck, have fun." The whole world is at your fingertips. Just figure out how to use it.
It's exciting.
Yeah. Okay, I'm out for this week. I got a 6 a.m. flight to catch, so I gotta go pack. Bye.
All right.
Nice seeing you.
Welcome to this Thank you for listening to Transistor Radio. Everyone, good night.
Good night. Bye. Okay, I think I'm uploading.